Hey everybody, welcome back to Rusty Wrench Restorations. Hope everyone had a great Christmas and continues to have a happy and prosperous new year. So today's video is going to be a little bit different from the normal tractor video. No fret, we're not going to change the content of the channel in any way. Tractors are still the majority of what we do on here. But there are some other things that I might be doing around the house that I think could be helpful videos for other people. So before we get too far into the video and you forget, if you can, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It costs you absolutely nothing and helps me out a whole hell of a lot more than you think. So let's get into this thing. So yeah, it's not a John Deere tractor by any means, shape, or form. But I do think this little guy deserves a little bit of screen time, if you will. So this is a 2001 Honda XR80R dirt bike. You can probably see that, but it was given to me by some amazing friends of mine. Back when I was in the Navy, I had met this guy named Brian. We've known each other for over 20 years. Him and his wife, Debbie, and one of his sons, Brian. He has Brian and Ryan. Ryan. Anyway, yeah, awesome people. They had this dirt bike for their nephew. He rode it for a while and just kind of outgrew the whole thing. So they were going to sell it, and then Brian Sr. talked to Brian Jr. and said, hey, before you sell that thing, why don't you check out with Steve? He used to restore all those Honda ATCs and three-wheelers and four-wheelers and stuff. Maybe he'd like to do it for the channel. So he contacted me, and well, the rest is history. Here it is. So I haven't even started this thing yet. I haven't heard it run. I was told it runs good, rides good, and everything. There are a few problems, which is the whole point of this video, and we're going to address today. So again, I do just want to shout out to Brian and Brian Jr. Thank you guys so much for giving me this dirt bike, obviously, and giving me the opportunity to showcase it on my channel. And maybe we can get this thing completely restored and looking new again. That's not going to happen today, though. So back to the problems. So runs good, rides good, doesn't stop too good. So the front brakes, non-operational. The rear brakes, non-operational. So I've got some new brake shoes. We're going to put those on today. Supposedly there's an issue with the carburetor, the float sticks, and leaks fuel everywhere. Common problem, not a big deal. I could always just get a carb rebuild kit. They're pretty cheap, anywhere from like 12 to 30 bucks, depending on where you get it. But I spent a little extra because the bike was free. Gave me that opportunity to put a little more into it. And I bought a brand new OEM Honda carburetor for this thing. So instead of tinkering around and trying to clean it out and, replace all the seals and needles and jets and everything, we just went with a whole new carb. There are like Chinese carburetors out there, if you will. They're just cheap knockoff ones. Yes, they will probably get your bike to run, whether it's a dirt bike or an ATV or a three-wheeler, but it won't ever run like it did from factory. So if you're going to go that route to rebuild a carburetor, my suggestion is get the rebuild kit, but then go to, I think I got a sticker here somewhere, here's one, jetsaurus.com. You can go on this website. They're not sponsored or nothing, but you can get OEM needles and jets for your carburetor from their website. It doesn't matter if it's, McCuney or Kine. I don't even know how to pronounce them. It's been years since I've messed with these things, but anyway, typically the jets and the holes in the jets for the fuel flow and delivery are the issues, right? So if you're supposed to have a 4/1000 hole, let's just say, in a main jet, I know that's small, it's probably not right, but the QA, if you will, from those cheaper rebuild kits, you might have a 2/1000 hole or a 9/1000 hole. So you never know what you're going to get. So at a minimum, if you get a cheap rebuild kit, the gaskets and floats, no big deal, whatever, but get yourself some good jets. Alright, so we know we're going to change the shoes on the front and the back, so we have brakes again. We know we're going to change the carburetor so it doesn't leak any fuel. And then the last thing we have is the rear shock. So, I don't know, I'm about 250 pounds. When I sit on it and get this kickstand up, it's a small bike. It's not made for a guy like me, but it is a fun bike to ride around on. So it still has some suspension. It's not quite bottoming out for me. But you can see that when I lift the back of the bike, the rear tire will remain on the ground, and you can see how much play is in there. That's blown out shock. So, instead of buying a new shock, which is probably a lot of money, I was able to get this really nice condition one for this specific bike from another buddy of mine, Robbie Horner. He's in Maryland, Horner Motorsports. Check out his website, his channel, all that good stuff. Good parts, cheap. He said this came off a nice low hour bike, so nice replacement shot for the dirt bike. And last but not least, a stand. So if you're working on ATVs, 3-wheelers, 4-wheelers, you really don't need a stand like this. Although they do come in handy sometimes. This one, I think I got from like Harbor Freight. It's a 1,000-pound capacity dirt bike stand from Pittsburgh. So yeah, it's from Harbor Freight. I don't know, 20 bucks, 30 bucks. I don't know, maybe there are more now. But handy thing to have because it will support the dirt bike. It'll allow you to work on the front wheel, the back wheel. You don't have to worry about it tipping over, the kickstand or anything. The other cool thing about it is right in the middle, it's got a hole. So when you put it up underneath the engine, you can reach the drain plug for the crankcase oil drain and not have to take it off the stand. So yeah, that's about it. Let's dig into this thing. Like I said, first thing we're gonna do, get this thing up on a bike stand, make it a whole lot easier to work on. Make sure the weight's distributed good. And obviously you still want to be careful with it. Alright, just to make it easier to work on, I think the first thing we'll do, we'll remove these back plastics, get the seat off. It's going to allow us to get to this carburetor a whole lot easier, plus the top bolt of the rear shock. And then at that point, we'll roll this thing around, find the master link, here it is right here. We'll take the chain off, we'll loosen up the axle bolt nuts for the rear tire, and then over here on this right hand side, we'll disconnect the brake cable for the rear brake shoes. Now it's a bit of change getting used the metric tools instead of the American stuff, and as you can see, the 10mm, everybody jokes about missing one. I'm missing that one. Had to use a deep well for it. It's funny how everybody has the same problems. Alright, let's get this off here. Alright, let's get this chain off. Got the master link brought around here. I'll zoom in there, you can see how we take that off. She's a bit dry. Kind of grab on the end of it and that pin to slide it back. It sounds like it went across the garage, but I got it right here. Alright, so now that that clips off, you can get the master link part. Shove this in here. Yeah, this thing's really dry. Chain lube does an amazing thing. Try not to break this because I don't have an extra link. Back when I restored all this stuff, I had tons of extra parts. Alright, so that little cover comes off. Now we can push the link in. Probably help if I just loosened up the chain tension on this, but I'm already into this. Let's finish it. Alright. There we go. Alright, so on each side of the wheel you have this side's of the bolt head, the other side is the nut, and that's basically the axle that the tire rides on. There's two of these adjustment nuts, if you will, and that's what you use to adjust the chain tension. So you can loosen that up if you want, but really we just need to hold the bolt head and take that nut off from the other side. Alright, so the bolt head is a 14mm, and we don't really want to turn that, we just want to kind of hold it. And the nut on the other side is a 19mm. Let's see if we can get that broke loose. There we go. Yeah, when you have a nut and a bolt, usually you want to just try to focus on spinning the nut portion and keep the bolt end loose. So, alright, now that that's done, we can take these two little clips off. You can see there's one on the other side as well for adjusting the brake tension. And as I pull this out, it's going to start to pull that axle bolt out. I still got to take the rear brakes apart on this side, so let's get that off. Alright, here's our rear brake cable and the adjustment nut for it. 14 millimeter. Go ahead and take that apart. Sometimes you might need to pull the spring forward and grab the threads on the back here if the whole thing's trying to spin together, but this one's coming apart pretty easy. So once that adjustment nut comes off the back, you simply slide the brake cable out, put the nut back on so we don't lose it. Just kind of tuck it out of the way. Alright, at this point, you can see on this side, the other end of the bolt, I'm going to basically just kind of support the rear tire without flipping the whole bike off the stand, which might be the case. Alright, let me recenter this thing, get the weight distributed a little different. We're now going to be removing some weight from the back, so kind of change our dynamics here a little bit. We get a better view here. Zoom out. Alright, so yeah, just be careful the weight shifting of the dirt bike. In fact, I'll probably stand over here. And we're going to kind of support the wheel and just kind of wiggle around and pull that axle bolt out. Got one side. There we go. Alright, so before I go too far into diving into changing these brake shoes, my luck, I'll get the new shoes on and start putting this together and forget that we need to change this rear shock. So really not much holding it together. There's a bolt at the top, which you can see on the new one here. So we'll remove that. And then bolt at the bottom. There's two bolts that hold it on, that's it. So just know that you'll have to kind of play around with the swing arm a bit, and we'll get it apart. So it's kind of hard to kind of wiggle and finagle this thing out of here. I think really what you'd have to do is take apart the bottom part of the suspension here, or what I'm going to do, I'm just going to remove the airbox. Airbox is out. Should be able to grab this rear shock, slide her out. Look at that. All right, swap it out with the new one here. Thanks again to Robbie Horner Power Sports. He's in Maryland. Really good guy to deal with. I haven't bought anything from him in a while because I haven't done a bike in a while. But we've done some trading and sales and stuff in the past. Let's see, this should just slide right in on the bottom and the bushing on the top. There we go. Yeah, he had come down a few years back. I'm just going to put the top and bottom bolt in while I talk here. Yeah, he had come down a few years back and bought a, let's see, I think this is the top one. When I was restoring my three-wheelers and everything, I had gotten into like making like Frankenstein type bikes. Why is this not fitting? Let me pull this back out and make sure this bolt fits through the hole. That's good. That's good. All right, I just don't have them lined up. Anyway, I like to make some custom Frankenstein type bikes, and I had bought a another Honda dirt bike. So this is a CF80R. So CF meaning they're the 4-stroke engines. The R, the CR80 or 85, 125, etc. are the race bikes. Those are the older 2-stroke bikes. So I had bought a CR85 from a kid down in North Carolina, And let me see if we got the right sizes here. Was it 19 on this side? I forgot now. Anyway, I had bought this CR85 from a kid down in North Carolina, dirt bike, and I wanted to make a three-wheeler out of it. So I bought that dirt bike and I used a lot of parts from an ATC 200 and I made a three-wheeler. I should have some videos or some photos of that I can put on. I got the wrong size socket on here. Anyway, I can't talk and work at the same time apparently. 14, is that the right size for over here? That's the right size. There we go. Alright, so anyway, CR85 two-stroke dirt bike I bought from a kid in North Carolina. Turned it into a three-wheeler. Fabbed up some parts, swing arm, front forks, and everything from an ATC 200, which was a three-wheeler. Had fun with that. I ended up selling that to a guy named Binky Tapscott, who lives in Virginia. Scottsville, I can't remember here. Anyway, I just got to tap on this to get the bottom bolt hold line up. But anyway, if you go online, look up Binky's ATC Forever. Whoa, we almost lost the bike there. Yeah, Binky's ATC Forever. He's got the most insane collection of mostly Honda three-wheelers. He's got Yamaha and four-wheelers and other things as well. But anyway, huge collection of ATVs and dirt bikes. So anyway, that bike had gone to him. I don't think he still has it. I'm honestly not too sure where it is at this point. But let me get this bolt in and I'll continue yapping. Alright, I'm back. I ended up sticking a Phillips screwdriver through this other side here to kind of line everything up. Obviously not enough for the bolt. Some of these things you just got to kind of fidget and play around with a bit. But anyway, so yeah, that three-wheeler had gone to Binky. I don't think he still has it. I think he ended up selling it. He's kind of more of a purist, which I can understand. But anyway, back to my story about Robbie Horner. Let's see if I can get this bolt to the other side. Nope, that's not going to work. All right, it's going to line it up a little better. Anyway, he had bought another one of the Frankenstein type bikes that I had built. And I had taken a CR125 two-stroke dirt bike engine and put that engine into a TRX90 four-wheeler, which is a little four-wheeler for kids, but yet it had a 125cc two-stroke engine. And it's pretty sick. It ripped. We had a lot of fun with that. So that was the first time I actually met Robbie. And always kind of stayed a little bit in touch. I know he's into some of the Eleanor dirt bikes. So always try to network and help people find things that they want for their collection as well. I am struggling getting this bolt through. So let me mess with that and we'll get back to the video. I swear it happens every time I shut the camera off. I'm able to get it in. So what I had to do is I took a little Phillips screwdriver from the other side and kind of put some down pressure on it, and the bolt went right in. So anyway, Robbie had bought that four-wheeler from me, the TRX90 four-wheeler with the CR125 engine in it. And yeah, so that was kind of close to the end of when I was getting out of the hobby, if you will. But yeah, I made a lot of crazy like Frankenstein type things. I took a Honda Odyssey. It was like a little single-seater dune buggy that they had. They had some from the 70s. It was a 250cc two-stroke engine. And then 1985, they had the 350cc air-cooled single-cylinder two-stroke engine. And it was pretty sick. Had independent suspension front and back. I took one of those and I put a twin-cylinder Rotax 670cc snowmobile engine. So 670cc two-stroke, two-cylinder, liquid-cooled snowmobile engine, and put it in that Honda Odyssey, and that thing would lift the front end vertical. It was crazy. I sold it because I knew I'd end up killing myself on it. So it was pretty nuts. I had a Honda Pilot. That was Honda's version. What was it, 89 to 90, 89 to 91? And it was like the Odyssey, but 10 times better. And that was a 400cc single engine, 2-stroke, liquid cooled. Really nice machine. Those things go for big money now, but anyway, all right, I got this top bolt in, tightened up. I got the bottom bolt in. I just got to tighten that up, and then we can go ahead and change the rear brakes, get the rear tire on, chain adjusted. We'll pull the carburetor off, change the new carburetor, put this air box back in, and then we'll get to the front end and do the front brakes. So anyway, yep, I can get to talking when it comes to this stuff. Had a lot of fun years working on these things, but you know, prices just started getting crazy. You know, 3-wheelers you used to be able to buy for a couple $100, fix them up, sell them for like $2 or $3 grand. Now if you're lucky, you can even find a junky one for like 15 to $2 grand. And you know, you're gonna put some money into it to make it right, and just, yeah, the prices are crazy. So yep, slowed down a little bit from the 3-wheelers and went to tractors, and now I waste all my money on those instead. So all right, let's get this back together. All right, so the shock is tightened on the top and the bottom, but this linkage down here at the bottom has quite a bit of play in it. You can see I can still move this swing arm up and down. Out here, I don't know, about an inch before it even put some pressure on the shock. So yeah, this little bushing down here, and this bottom section is a little worn and wallowed out, but you know what? I'm not even gonna worry about that right now. That will be something we'll address when we tear it down for a full restoration in the springtime. Not today. Rear brake shoes, the whole reason we're here today. This cover here basically just lifts straight off, nothing crazy. You can see that's my adjustment cam in here for the rear brakes. We'll set that over with the brake parts. But as you can see here, these are the rear shoes for inside the drum. They're not disc brakes, they're drum brakes. So you know, these machines are used to driving through water and mud, and all that junk and crap gets built up in here. These ones actually don't look too bad, but they'll basically just slide apart. Should come off as a set. So we'll clean this all up. Flip this over, this is our actuating arm. So when we push the brake pedal, the cable shortens and pulls this forward. As it pulls that forward, you can see there's like a flat arm here and then a round arm on this side. So those two brake shoes sit on here. They pivot on the round one, and this flat one, as you pull on that brake cable, that square area turns angle, and I'll show you here roughly what it does. All right, so on the right hand side there, let's take this spring off too, because it's going to make it easier for me to show you. All right, so here's your two brake shoes. It's, pivoting on the round pin on that side, and then on this side you have the square part, and when you pivot it, it opens them up kind of like Pac-Man, and then these shoes grab on the inside of the drum on the hub. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to get this all cleaned up. I recommend putting a little bit of Lucas Red and Tacky on the pivot point here and on this square section, just for lubrication purposes. We'll clean all this out with some brake cleaner, and we'll go over the drum here a little bit, get this cleaned up, make sure there isn't any junk or buildup, and go from there. If you want to change wheel bearings, now's the time. There's one there. The other one's on this side. You pull this little spacer out and get to that seal and bearing. We're not going to mess with any of that. They all seemed okay. The sprocket's seen better days, but it's not bad, and for what we're going to do with it, it'll be just fine. So let me clean this up and be right back. All right, so we got this cleaned up. Really nothing crazy, just going over it with a wire brush, getting all the loose stuff off. We'll get some of that Lucas Red and Tacky, like I said, and just want to get some of that on the pin it rotates on, and this little flat cam over here. Easy day. And We'll set that aside over here. And just kind of take this wire brush and run it along inside here. Get off any loose stuff. Make sure there's no mud or gunk. Keep this from going together good. Flip it over. Give it a drop or two. Should be fine. All right. New brake shoes. Brake shoe made in China. I don't know. You don't have to go too crazy with this stuff. I wouldn't get Honda ones. Just get whatever you can find that's cheap and easy. So I took my springs off the old one. I guess this new set comes with a new set of springs, so we're good there. Yeah, and it's just a matter of hooking them back up on here. So again, you can separate these by hand. You got the round side that goes over this pin, the flat side that goes over that cam. So basically we'll kind of break them to the side like that. Get you around the round part first, and then squish it around the flat section. And that's it. New shoes, super easy. So now that these are on here, I can show you. On the outside, remember this would be looking at the right hand side of the bike. That brake cable goes on the top here. So when you depress the cable, it's going to pull forward on this lever. Now when I flip that over to the side, you can see by pulling forward, which will be this way now on that lever, it splits this flat bar and opens up those shoes. So when those shoes open up, they compress inside the brake drum and it stops the bike. So that's it. I think there's supposed to be an O-ring on here to keep water and stuff from getting in. It's not there. I don't have one, so it's going back just like this. And I'm going to clean. There's a little bit of a lip here. I'll bring this up so you can see it. I don't have the light. Yes, I do. A little bit of light always does some good. So if I bring this up here, shine a light in, you can see the shiny part where the shoes always rub and drag. And on the outside, there's that rusty lip. Well, that part doesn't get worn, so we're going to clean that up a little bit. And it will help to get these shoes in. If you absolutely have to, you can always get a little file or some sandpaper and just chamfer a little bit of the edge of this brake on the corner. It'll help it slide in a lot easier. So let's do that. All right, rear wheel assembly. Obviously we want the sprocket side back on the sprocket side, the brake side back on the brake side. And we're going to get our axle bolt ready. We'll go ahead and slide the wheel in. Be mindful again, the bike is on stands. You want to be careful. So we'll get this left side through first, get the bolt started into the hub. There we go. It's going to come through the other side. I get my mallet here, give it a little assistance. There we go. Now I've got the back wheel back on, so we're going to change the weight dynamic again. So just be mindful of that. So now that that's back in, I'll get the nut on this side with the chain adjustment piece installed. We don't want to forget that. Get the nut on there. And you don't want to tighten up this axle bolt yet because we need to make sure we have the chain properly adjusted. So before we tighten up any of this stuff for the axle, we want to get the chain on and put together. So like tractors, ATVs, dirt bikes, snowmobiles, I mean really anything, when you do a restoration, there's a lot involved in it, you know. So you might need to replace tires, you might need to replace the front sprockets, the rear sprocket, the front sprocket, bearings, seals, brakes, there's chain guides that are on here, chain guards, there's all kinds of stuff, the chain itself, you know, and as with anything else, there's different quality products and non-quality products, if you will. You know, there's different types of chain out there. There's O-ring chain, X-ring chain, I mean, you name it. So, all right, as you can see, I've got the chain wrapped around, but we're still not able to hook it up yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide the rear wheel forward in the adjustment. And it was kind of tight before, so I might need to loosen these nuts now just to let me move the tire forward. We'll get the chain put back together, and then we'll pull the rear tire back and make our adjustments to adjust chain tension. You want to adjust both the right and at the same time so that that rear wheel stays centered with the bike, you know, aft looking front. You don't want it to be tightened more on the right or the left because it'll track to the side and be a pain in the ass to ride. So I loosened up the chain tensioners, 10mm wrench. Go ahead and slide the rear wheel forward. At this point, I should be able to put the master link through, just like that. The chain's super loose. We'll make that adjustment. So we'll go ahead and put the link cover on there, and then the clip. So for chains, you always want to have the open part of the clip to the back on the top part of however it's being driven. That's just how they go together. Don't ask me why, I don't know, but open end of this clip to the back on the top side. So we're going to slide this in the front hole there, grab some pliers, and pop it in. So master link's back on. Next thing to do is we will adjust the chain tension. Again, I'll get my 10mm wrench and start tightening this up. As I tighten this and it pulls this rear wheel back, you'll see the chain start to go up. It's getting tight. I want to check the other side. Like I said, you have to do both together. They don't have to be like the same time together, but you kind of catch my drift. You can watch the rear tire. You can see if it's going off center. Another thing you can check is the measurement between the axle bolt and nut compared to where it is in this channel, just to kind of give you a rough idea if you've got it centered or not. Again, you want it to be, let me get another, I stripped out this 10mm wrench here, but you want it to be as straight as possible with the bike, and you still want to keep track of the tension of your chain as well. I think we're probably going to leave it about right there. If it's too tight, it's going to prematurely wear the chain, the rear and the front sprockets. And if it's too loose, well, it'll do the same thing, plus you have the chance of getting the chain popping off. So everything turns and rolls free. The new brake shoes we put in aren't binding up, so I know we're good there. Chain tension seems okay. We'll definitely get some lubrication on there. So now we just have to hook up the brake cable on the right hand side. Rear wheel brake cable installation and adjustment. So as you can see, the rear tire spins freely. If I start to pull up on this lever, like this cable would do, it'll engage the brake. So now I can't turn the wheel. So we want to make the adjustment so that it's not dragging the brakes. They're just going to get heated up and worn prematurely. So make sure you got this little cam lobe that goes inside here. We'll take the nut back off our brake cable. Let me take this lobe out because I do want to show you how this works. So the cable will go through both these pieces. That hole goes all the way through. I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but the hole goes, there we go, you can see it. So this adjustment nut, where it has the hex on this end, is round on one side and not on the other. So it fits on this lobe. So as we adjust it, it's going to pop and turn, pop and turn, pop it like it's hot. Anyway, that's how we adjust and lock our brake adjustment in. So we'll put the little cam inside the mount, pull the spring back. Now this spring is going to push back on this lever to keep the brake disengaged, right? So when you let off the brake, this is supposed to push back on that. If you don't have a new one, you can always grab this and pull it out a little bit, little trick. Give you a little more tension on it to push back. Anyway, so we'll slide this into that cam and we'll get the brake adjustment nut started. I have a feeling that we might not need to get it threaded on here too far. Alright, so tire still turns, tighten it one click, tire still turns, tighten it one click, tire still turns, and so forth. We'll go forward until we start to feel some drag. Let's probably going to be, yeah, right in there. So it doesn't roll quite as free as it should. So I'm going to back off a turn. A little tight, but not too bad. The thing is there really isn't much thread in this adjustment nut. I don't want that coming off because then we just won't have brakes at all. So anyway, these new brakes, as you ride the bike, will start to wear in. And as they wear in, you can turn in on this. Right now it's easy to do because we've had it off, but 14mm wrench, and that's it. That's your brake adjustment. All right, working our way from the back to the front. Rear brakes are installed, chains tensioned, brakes are adjusted. Let's do the carburetor next, and then we'll get up to the front brakes. So just to give a little better view, I'm going to take their shroud off. You really don't need to for this specific operation, but I think with this out of the way, you'll be able to see a little better. Not too sure how the lighting's going to be, but I think we'll get by. All right, so the carburetor. There's a few things that we need to disconnect. One is this top piece will unscrew. That is our throttle cable that goes up to the throttle on the handlebars. So we're putting a new carburetor on here, so I'm really not too concerned with this one, but you want to make sure you don't have a bunch of dirt and gunk that's falling down inside there. So anyway, that's going to lift off, and this throttle needle come out of the carburetor just like that. So I'll hold this in my hand and I'll twist the throttle, and you'll see how it pulls the throttle needle up. So we'll leave that off to the side. There's two nuts that attach the carburetor to the head. You can take it apart from here at the head if you want, or you can take it apart from just the carburetor here, and that's what we're gonna do. There's a drain at the bottom here that just a little rubber hose. It's not connected to anything on the other side. I'll pull it out here so you can see it. That just hangs down under the bike. It's pretty nasty. That's just for all your overflow stuff, and it's just stuck in that little nipple on the bottom. So we'll take that off for now. And then on the other side of the carb, you can kind of see it right here, is the fuel supply line. So if you look through there, you can see the back side of the fuel cutout valve, and it is off right now. And then the fuel line comes through an inline filter, which looks like it's been on there from 1989, even though this is a 2001. And the fuel supply line looks like it's got a little kink in it right there. So we're going to replace all this. We'll put a new fuel line from the cutoff, put a new filter, and a new line from the filter to the carb, because that setup just does not fly with me. So once we disconnect the fuel, we'll take it off the carb, and it comes right off, and then it's just swap it right with a new one. Now, if you're not sure if your fuel cutout works, or if you know that it doesn't, I recommend getting a little of these like needle nose vice grips, and you can just simply pinch the fuel line and keep you from getting fuel all over the place. And out she comes. Even though I took this old nasty carburetor off, looks can be deceiving. Just because it's nasty doesn't mean that it's bad. I hear the float moving. He said the float was stuck, which may be the case, or it's just not adjusted properly. But there's still nothing wrong with this carburetor. And it is an OEM Keihin, however you say it. I don't know. I don't really care. But this is still an original OEM Honda carburetor, far superior to any of the junk, trashy $20 ones you can get on eBay. So even as this is, of course, we'd want to dump the fuel out because there is fuel in the bowl. As is, as dirty as it is, you could throw this thing up on eBay and probably get 50 or 60 bucks for it all day long. Who knows, maybe more. If you want to go the extra step, you could clean this thing with some brake cleaner, get a carb rebuild kit, get some jets from Jets Are Us, Jets Are Us, Jets Are Us. No affiliation, but good company to work with. They're cheap. They're like $3 to $6 a piece, and they're OEM jets. So you could take this OEM carb, rebuild it, and maybe get 80 to 100 bucks. I think the new carb was like 140, 150, 180. I don't know, 150 bucks, I think. So don't throw it in the shit can. It's still a good carb, still good to use. One man's trash is another man's treasure. All right, carb's off. I do want to get this flange cleared up and cleaned up before I put the new carb on, and we'll go ahead and replace these fuel lines and a new filter. Back in a flash. Alright, there's our old fuel filter at the top and the new one at the bottom, and I think that might give us a little better performance. Alright, so I've got some more line here to replace these overflow lines. Just want to make sure that's draining at the bottom of the bike. Let's see, old carb, new carb. There's the part number. Genuine Honda part. Open it up. Oh, it's already got the overflow lines. Look at that. Gotta love a Honda. If this was a Suzuki, it would not have that. Alright, so there she is. There's our brand new carburetor. I got it backwards here. There we go. Brand new OEM carb. It's the same in all aspects except for cleanliness and performance. Alright, so on this carb, just so that you get this plunger in the right direction, you can see on one side it's got like an angled slope. That's going to go where this adjustment screw is, down inside there. So that angled slope will be on the side of that adjustment screw. You want to make sure the needle goes down into the seat properly. And it should drop all the way down to open and close inside there. Alright, so it just goes back together in the reverse order. Install the spring. Kind of squish it down as best you can by hand. The new plunger and needle assembly. Hook that cable in, pull it forward, and let the spring out. And then that should be to let my throttle go back. I probably just need to oil it up. But anyway, so we're going to stick with this old cable for now. There you can see the plunger inside the throttle bore. I lift up and it opens up. It should snap down and it's not. So I have some additional throttle issues to fix, but that'll get us running. So sometimes it's a little easier to get this part of it together before we stick it on the bike. And we're back. So I finished getting the carburetor in. I put the seat back on. I put the airbox back in, the side skirts, and the front cowl. Because you already watched me take it apart, so why would you want me to put it back together on video again? So anyway, all that's left is the front brakes. So we're gonna do that right now. And I tried taking this cable assembly apart to lubricate the cable, but it's still not really helping. So I just need to know that when I pull back to give it throttle, if I let off, I guess I got cruise control. So that's got to get fixed and addressed before I let my son ride it, or my daughter. But it'll be good for testing purposes. So let's get this front brake disassembled. Basically, it's kind of the same thing as the back. We're just going to pull this spring up, loosen up on the adjustment nut, get the cable off the actuation arm, if you will, and then there's a bolt head on this side and a nut on the other. We'll pull the front axle bolt out and drop the front tire, change the brakes. Easy peasy lemon squeeze. So it's all back together. The front brakes are, I think the pads are a little bit thicker than what they're supposed to be. So it's really kind of catchy right now. So once we ride it for a bit, kind of wear them in, hopefully that'll get a little better. You know, replacing the rear shock, I really don't think made much difference. It still has that play back there. I don't think it was even the shock to begin with. Now after doing all that, which is fine, I think that bushing that we saw at the bottom that was still wore out is definitely the problem. I mean, that was the inch in the swing arm that we see, and it's quite a lot more exaggerated when you get up to the top of the bike. So, 'tis what it is. At least we've got brakes. You know, still got to address this throttle cable issue and put some fuel in it and see if she'll start and run. So again, it's just kind of one of those things. It's an old bike, you know, I mean, 2001, 24 years old. You know, you got to expect that you're going to have to replace some parts, and some parts are just going to get wore out, and it is what it is. So, all right, let's throw some fuel in and see if we can get this thing to light off. So it's got a spot for a key up here, but he didn't give me a key, and he didn't say anything about a key. He did say that this was the kill switch. They had to push that to shut it off. So I'm assuming not pushing it. Should be on. Let's see. I'll turn on the fuel. I got flow going through my filters. That's a good sign. I see it going through to the carb. That's a good sign. I don't see anything dripping on the floor. Also a good sign. Let's see. Oh, I got a little drip up here. What's it coming from? It's coming from, I think, my fuel supply. Alright, let me shut this off. Fun stuff. Yeah. The fuel line that I used for it, I think, is the wrong size. It's a little bit big. And I tried putting a hose clamp on it, thinking that that would work. And I guess not. So let me see if I can get this hose tightened up, and we'll try this again. But the carb does have fuel in it, so let's just give it a little rip and see if we can get it to fire off. Probably won't stay running long because of the fact that the fuel is off. It is a new carb with fuel trying to fill up in it. Alright, let me turn this on real quick just to see if we can't get it to start. And then I'll fix the fuel leak issue. Oh, yeah. Almost. I may have flooded it at this point. Let's try some choke. Definitely got to fix the fuel leak. Alrighty, got the fuel leak fixed. Outside, it's 36 degrees right now. I think I'm gonna put the choke on, back to fuel, and just see if we can let this thing warm up a little bit. Can't beat that. First kick, idle's pretty good. Let the choke roll for a little bit. Got dark out. I had to take the seat and the plastics and the airbox back out again just to get the fuel leak resolved. Idle's good. That's what you get for a Honda OEM car. I'm telling you, stay away from that Chinese shit. Alright, quick word from our sponsor. So, I am a big helmet advocate. I don't recommend riding a dirt bike or ATV without one. I know in this video I was riding it without my helmet on. So, you know, a little test drive here or there. But yeah, if I'm going to be riding around any length of time, even just putting around the neighborhood, always wear your trusty helmet. So, do as I say, not as I do. And before I get back to our regularly scheduled programming, be sure to stay tuned till the end of this video. I'm going to throw up a couple photos of some of the three-wheelers that I've restored over time. And I think I even have one or two of the Honda Odyssey with the 670 Rotax in it. So if you have a dirt bike, ATV, three-wheeler, four-wheeler, side-by-side, and you're a Honda fan like I am, then I highly recommend that you get on Facebook and check out Honda Hoarders. It's an amazing Facebook page. Here's one of their old stickers right here. I think Ben still has ATC Animals up. Not too sure. But Honda Hoarders, tons of good info on there. Real good people. And then I'll also put a link to another YouTube page for Preston. He's on Honda Hoarders with Vinny, and he does all kinds of awesome videos. He's got a huge three-wheeler collection. So if you're into that kind of thing, check it out. Definitely worth the watch. I guarantee you'll have some videos in there that you'll want to see. And with that being said, back to me riding on the street in the dark in 36-degree weather without a helmet on, and go. Yeah, new project. It was free, so I couldn't say no. Well, I think that's a success. Well, that's going to do it for today's video. Now that I know it runs and rides and shifts, the clutch works good, I think we can put a little more time and money into it. So definitely need to replace the throttle cable. It's weird having to roll your hand back forward again to get the throttle back down. So yeah, cool little bike. Something to mess around in the neighborhood. So anyway, back to tractors tomorrow. I think I might start pulling the skid steer apart and yeah, get going on that project. So we'll go in and get a hot shower, warm up. Until next time, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.